Welcome everyone to another episode of Wildlife Photo Chat Video Edition. Again, I've got the wonderful Mukul Soman here with me. This time we get to look at one of his amazing photos. Mukul, how's it going? And I'd love to hear more about this shot, man.
Hey Ray, thank you for having me. This
Yes.
is wonderful. Yeah, so I'll dive straight away into this photograph. So this photograph of an Atlantic puffin coming in after spending all day at sea, right at sunset. And the sunset is like, it was in summer in Iceland, so the
Yeah.
sun never quite really went below the horizon, so it just touches the horizon and stays there. So this was roundabout at that time. It was basically the last light, hence you get this nice soft light that was kind of
So
hitting the
good.
bird. And the soft light is horizontally sourced, right? Because the sun
Yes.
is at the horizon. So there's a rare quality to this light that
Yeah.
you don't always get. So yeah, I was up a cliff that took a long while to get to, and
Nice.
the edges of the cliff are very soft. So it's not very wise to go too far
Yeah.
to the edge. So what I did, and it was extremely windy. We are talking 15, 20 miles per hour wind, which was working in my favor because the wind was coming from behind me. And the
Yeah.
puffins, I started noticing before they land, they kind of do this, hey, take a photograph of me,
Yeah.
please, kind of moment. And then they land, right? So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is my moment. The wind, but again, the wind is behind me. So if I stand
Yeah.
up, it's very dangerous. It can knock you down.
Yeah.
So anyways, laying down, took this photograph. There were multiple puffins coming in, and I just waited, looked through the viewfinder and waited until one of them came by and kind of, I had a bunch of different shots, and this particular one was the one I kept. I really enjoyed the fact that it looked like coming home. It felt like how I
Mm.
would feel after a long day at work, and I'm satisfied with my work. I'm very lucky that I do art for a living, just
Yeah.
like yourself, right? And we feel a certain kind of happiness at the end of the day if we have put in the effort to
Yep.
do justice to we try to create, right? So I kind of felt like the puffin spent all that day out there in the
Yep.
ocean, and I was coming back to nest. And that's kind of like how, and they were actually starting to build their
Yes.
nest. So
Nice.
that's the
Excellent.
story behind the image. It was
Awesome.
shot with a 24 to 70
Oh,
millimeter
really?
lens. Yeah,
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
Excellent. No, I wouldn't have guessed that. It felt like a little bit more telephoto, but
Maybe it was. Maybe it was. Maybe this shot was not. Actually, you might have
no, you're
the,
right. 70 mil.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I gotta say, beautiful image to begin with, but like sometimes images just have a use of color that just jumps out at me, and that is the first thing that sort of struck me with this photo. Like, yes, of course, the puffin is the star of the show. The position could not be much better with him, like full wings out, feet down, just showing off all the classic colorations of him, which is great. And then, yeah, like I don't know if it was, I don't know which I noticed first, just the overall color palette of this or the quality of that light, which comes from, like the color palette comes from that quality of light, but both of them working in harmony together there. But the colors to me, like the stark white and then the vivid oranges of the bill and the feet, then I love how there's soft pastel tones up here with the blues and then into those pinks, purples, and then bam, like that vibrant ocean that hits you, but isn't, it's like soft enough back there that it's not pulling attention. And then the green just anchoring the frame, giving a place for the subject to land. Like that's the thing for me that bird and flight photographs are tough with, because like so many times it's just a bird out in space, like out of focus, blurred out background, not much or little context. And it's hard. It can be cool to see the bird in that position or flying and frozen in the air, but without the other context, it's kind of like, that's the end of the story. But with something like this, to me, with the grass cliff there, like it just adds so much context about where this bird is, what it's doing, it's getting ready to land, where it's coming in. If you know anything about the species, you kind of already assume and know exactly what you're talking about, right? Like these seabirds only come to land when they're nesting. So outside of nesting season, it wouldn't even be landing on this cliff, you know? So it tells so much of that story, and it's all comes from having that grass line in there. And then not only is it just like any old average cliff. It's like these beautiful grasses. You can almost see and feel the movement of the wind in them.
Soft grass, right? That softness.
It's just such a pleasing, like, dude, this makes me want to just go like lay on my back in that grass right there. Like that's the feeling I get. And you said you're laying down, and I could just imagine, like, I've had the feeling, man, like, what a better place to be. You can't think of a better place to be. You're laying on this cliff, the wind there, the sounds, the smells, the birds, the light like this. It's just like, what a magical moment. And I have to assume, Mukul, every time you get to view this photo, you have to be transported back to that exact moment.
As you were describing this, I don't know if you saw, I actually sighed because I kind of really missed that place and that moment. You know, we use the term fleeting moments pretty often when we describe photography, but this is really like a fleeting moment from my life. You know, each one of these photographs that we share is actually a slice of our life, right?
Totally.
I mean, in this AI world, I think the biggest value that human created art brings is actually, it is not generated. It is a slice of another human being's life as seen and filtered through their senses.
Moments, memories, feelings. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really a piece. Yeah. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention that I enjoyed about this composition when I finally looked at it was that I always look for invisible lines that, what I mean by invisible lines is like, if a line of sight and a line of implied movement kind of intersect, I feel there's a strong connection that gets made in the frame. And in this case, the angle in which all the grass blades are facing is exactly opposite to the line of sight of the bird coming in. So there is this two worlds going into each other, kind of, you know, conflicting movement, which is visually always interesting when you have you know, one side of the frame jamming into another side of the frame. And that implied movement brings so much of energy to a photograph, and I felt that worked for me. Like those two blades of grass, especially to the left, those of them, and then the rest of the grass supporting them. They're kind of like the leaders, but the rest of the grass kind of supporting into the movement of the bird coming in and its eyes and intersecting.
Which also, again, knowing bird behavior connects back to like why they always are going to land into the wind, right? So you're naturally going to have the wind that we can't see, but we can intuit which direction it's going based on the direction the bird's flying, but also the grass blades moving that way, right? So it kind of connects that element. And then there's one other subtle little thing here that I really think helps so much to balance this composition out. Well, there's one bold one, right? Which is, I love how the grasses move up to the left here and kind of fill in some extra space, but this cloud, like this subtle little cloud up there is just almost so perfectly placed. Top left third, bird bottom right third, you know, it's just like, it doesn't need to be there, but I'm so glad it is, you know?
I agree with you 100%. It's kind of like you put this on a scaling machine and there's this kind of balancing out of the frame. Talking about that, I wish I did one thing different. It was just, it's so quick, and I only realized this honestly after I went through the photos, after I got back to Seattle, is that ocean line. I wish it was a tad bit higher, meaning if instead of fully laying down, I don't know, maybe if it was a tad bit higher, the feet of the bird might touch it, so maybe
that's true.
Shot. I don't know, but you know, we can always improve a photograph, right? There's always something we can walk away from as to what could have been better, right? And that's the thing that I keep going back to is, man, I wish that it was. So it kind of bothers me that in the middle of the frame, the line of grass is exactly in the same line of the ocean. So I kind of wish that there was a little bit more of the ocean behind it.
Where, if you could have magically placed all these things where you wanted, would you have had that ocean line maybe coming out of like where the grass starts in that corner there? Right, like where they would like kind of intersect in that corner?
Yeah, and maybe, I don't know, maybe there'll be a gust of wind that'll push the puffin up a little bit, you know, you can sit here and
but also, you know, like, if I'm trying to imagine that, then all of a sudden we get a big chunk of blue down in this corner here. So does then it become a little too much? I don't know. I think it could work, but you know, like, dude, I love when we get this nitpicky with stuff. I really do like breaking down that photos that way. But I don't know. This one lays out so damn nicely, man. It really, really does. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Ray. Thank you.
Can I ask another question too?
Please.
Why the choice of 24-70 versus a longer focal length there? What made you, do you remember what made you choose to put that lens on instead of just backing up, sitting there, hitting it with a long telephoto lens?
Probably because I already took about 2,000 photographs with the telephoto lens.
Good answer. But listen, man, you know how many people wouldn't stop with that? Like, even though they had all those, so many photographers still just keep shooting that lens and don't take that moment to go, let me try another lens. So I appreciate that in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the point of view of a storyteller, even though my full-time profession is not a photojournalist, I like to imagine that in my imaginary world where I am a full-time photographer, I would be a wildlife photojournalist. That's what I'm interested in telling stories. And one of the key aspects of telling a story is a sense of place. Where is this happening? And a sense of why the subject is doing what you're seeing on screen and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, my tendency usually is if you got some close shots, take some slightly wider shots.
Yeah.
If you got some slightly wider shots, take some even more wider shots. Then if you got a lot of wider shots, okay, let's now go close-in shots.
Yeah.
And if you got close-in shots, go really close, all the way. You know, details like eyes, feathers, beaks, you know, whatever that is. And always, it's then you have this bag of photographs that all have different focal lengths, different horizon positions, different perspectives, different things you can tell about the same event, or and it all totally becomes like a cinematic experience of watching a story unfold. So that's kind of like why I chose for the remainder of my day after getting a lot of the telephoto shots. Okay, now let me focus on taking the 24-70. Then I tried taking some shots with the 24 end, and I would have loved to. It was just getting too dangerous, and you know, I didn't want to risk myself up on the edge of a cliff.
Not worth it. Yep, no photo is ever worth it, man. Yeah. I hear. Yeah. I've been in that position with seabirds where I'm kind of like, maybe I should stop right now. It's a little too much. Yeah. So I hear you.
Yeah, I've seen some of your. Actually, I've seen some of your Gannet and those. Was it razor bills
maybe, and common mirrors as well.
Yeah. Common mirrors, like they're, you know, these perfect elements. But I because of experience, I know where you are. I know what you're doing, and I'm like, Ray, no, not any further. Great shot. We need you to come back and show us the pictures. But you know, I get it. I mean, we all assess the danger situation.
Sure.
And I'd rather err on the side of not getting the photograph than on the side of
of death potentially. And it's funny, I've actually I think this year when I go back to that colony, I actually want to try bringing a monopod with just a remote trigger, so I can actually maybe get out a little bit more into the perspectives I want, but just be in a much more safer condition and play with stuff like that. Because it's
great idea.
I've had those moments where I can see the potential, but I'm just like, I can't get where I need to get safely, and like you said, it's not worth it, right? So trying to think of other ways to get that. Before we wrap up this episode, I just want to say the one last thing again, like just how grateful were you for that light? This light is so, I mean, I don't know that it gets any more just perfect, and I would even say precious than this. It's just so beautiful. There's still direction. There's still that hint of color, but it's so soft and pleasing. Like, oh, I love it. I really do.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah. What an amazing photo. Thank you for sharing it with us. And as always, great talking to you about it. We'll see you on the next episode, everybody.
All right. See you, everyone. Bye-bye.